Secretary of First MSW, to give a very welcome address.
A very good evening and a warm welcome to all of you. Hope you all are safe in this pandemic. It is indeed my pleasure to welcome our chief guest, department faculty members, and all the participants to this webinar, organized by Department of Social Work, Patrician College of Arts and Science. I am sure that you all will feel enriched with knowledge after the completion of this webinar. I welcome you all once again and hope that you all will have a great time ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Margaret. Over to Miss Hema for the department video.
Welcome to the Department of Social Work. Social work is a practice profession and aims to prepare students for a career in social work and its related fields. The Patrician College is an institution affiliated to the University of Madras and follows the choice-based credit system. Its purpose is to provide value-added, market-driven, and indigenously relevant courses in social work. The Department of Social Work was started in 2010 with the MSW course, having two specializations of medical and psychiatric social work and human resource management. Since then, it has grown to include the Bachelor's of Social Work degree in 2015 and in 2018, a third specialization for the Master's degree, Community Development. The department began the Master's in Philosophy program, thus making the department into a research program and department.
On the completion of their education, a majority of our students land jobs in well-known organizations like American India Foundation, ICMR Project, Vortex Engineering, Hudson Agro Products, JMB Groups, Vishwa J Hospitals, and so many others. Students who are aligned with these organizations for their fieldwork, summer internship, and block placement have been recruited by the same organizations based on their performance and involvement as student trainees.
The curriculum of social work is designed to be both theoretical and practical in nature, therefore providing experiential learning to its fullest. The theory includes core foundation of social work, along with elective and interdisciplinary papers. In the second year of MSW, students are allowed to choose their field of study among the three specializations offered. Innovative teaching methodology is used to ensure classes are both interactive and easy for students to understand. Experiential learning helps students to practice what is learnt in theory. They are allowed to work alongside professionals and are able to understand and assess the reality of life situations. Apart from the formal curriculum, social work trains students in traditional art forms of street theatre, mime, villupaattu, tappatam, and folk songs. These art forms help social workers to connect more with the people that they work with. The department association sowers helps in sowing seeds of change. It allows for various skill development through seminars, workshops, conferences, and cultural events. Many important days are commemorated under the leadership of sowers. For the purpose of fieldwork and summer internships, the department has collaborated and created a wide network with various institutions of renown and repute. These are only a few of the organizations we have a network with. Each specialization has worked with leading firms in their industries, such as Apollo Hospitals, Madras Medical Mission, Aid at Action, HCL, YMCA, World Vision, International Justice Mission, Nokia, Big Bazaar, and so many more. The outreach program of the department is taken up with great enthusiasm by the SOVAS team to reach the underprivileged and marginalized. Some of the activities carried out to reach and aid these sections of people are medical camps, career guidance programs, programs for women empowerment, and other festive celebrations. This emphasizes the department's social responsibility to the community and instills the same values in all budding social workers. This experiential learning facilitates students to understand, empathize, and be socially conscious of people and situations. The tribal camp was initiated during the academic year 2017-2018. It allows students to learn and experience tribal living, history, culture, tradition, language, food, and folk culture. We believe in holistic growth and development and achieve this by allowing students a chance to learn through guest lectures.
To sow the seeds of change through our Sowers Forum and to create this ripple in individuals, groups, communities, and societies, we become the change ourselves. We grow with the changing times and carry forward the mission of the Sowers Association of knowledge, innovation, and outreach in every sphere of life. We hope that this journey inspires all those who are a part of it to reach their fullest potential. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hema, for the beautiful video. Now I call upon Ms. Yamuna, a first MSW, to introduce the chief guest.
Good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome to all of you here. Action begins with desire from social work profession and community development to the international social work. I take pride in welcoming our guest for the day, Dr. Prince Solomon, Assistant Professor, Department of Social Work, Madras Christian College. And he has completed his BA in English Literature, MA in Social Work, and Pinnacle of Achievements with PhD. He completed his MA in Social Work in the year of 2000 and continued his work in his very own college. His different as position as Assistant Professor, Fieldwork Coordinator, Director till date. He also has a close associations with Nilgiris, Wayanad Tribal Welfare Society, Ambalamola as a president from 2007 to till date. He was also in the advisory board Compassion International LDP, Karuna Bal Vikas between 2004 to 2016. Wisdom comes not from age but from education and learning. We have our very own guest, Dr. Prince Solomon, who has completed his advanced training in ALHP in Indian Society for Applied Behavioral Science, trained in mentoring code, mind trained in institutions building and future search. And also he presented papers like national, international conference and seminars too. And he too published the books and journals. And it's my pleasure to welcome everyone and our honorable guest to this beautiful session. Thank you, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Esther and Yamuna, for the wonderful introduction. For all those who are listening and to this webinar, I hope I'm audible and clear. Can I get one feedback so that I'll go ahead?
Yes, sir, you are.
Okay, so thank you for Sowers Club for inviting me to this webinar. And I'm sure we are going to have an interesting time of discussion and questions this afternoon. And I believe that we are in that time. We are in a time where we need to right to ask the right questions. We need to have the right to ask the right questions. I think that's very, very important. The question is, can I be the answer to the problems that I see around, and can I also be a part of the help? I think all of us if you're in Chennai, I'm sure you're experiencing this pandemic, lockdown, unlocking. I think for the last 14 months, we've been struggling in different ways. Looks bright sometimes. There are days with sunshine, and there are days which is not of great news. I've been, as introduced, I've been a teacher for the last 21, 22 years now. And I'm also part of quite a bit of organizations. As introduced in the video, social work is a practice profession. I can't teach unless I practice. So I do my best to practice apart from my teaching, and I think that experience is what I'm going to share it with you briefly. I don't have a presentation as such, but I thought I'll quickly run through a few of my thoughts with you, and then I'm sure it will be of some help to you. Once again, thank you for the Department of Social Work, Patrician College, the head of the department, and the faculty members and the students for organizing this and inviting me. So there are two parts to it. One is the answer, whether you can be the answer or whether you can be the help. I think there are two ways of looking at it when I see these questions. The first one is whether you can be the answer. When I want to become the answer, then I need to respond to few things personally. I need to change few things or perspectives that I have built it up over a period of time. Then I will become the answer. And then there is another part that I can be the part of the help, that I can help others by my conviction. Not necessarily I need to go through a problem, not necessarily that I need to have experienced what others are experiencing, but I still can be the help, and that is what that makes a difference. So there is two parts to it. One is being an answer, and one other is being the help. That is the gap between the haves and the have-nots. The help comes from people probably who has experienced that, and then some people have turned it be the answer and the help, and some people have not experienced that, but still they see people suffering, and they want to be the help. Now, I'll give you a little bit background about why people actually needed help. I'm a storyteller, by the way, so I love to tell stories. So I remember 2005, I happened to go with my students to Bhutan. At that time, it was still a kingdom of Bhutan, not under democracy, but under the kingship, under monarchy. So I had a privilege to visit Bhutan with my students, and I visited, we were in Thimphu, and we were visiting organizations. Few of the organizations are related to environment and things like that. One of the surprising things that I saw is there was no institutional setup or institutionalized care given there. When I say institutionalized care, for example, an orphanage or a rescue center for women, or elderly home, home for the short stay home for women who are battered, or domestic violence, I didn't see any of it in Bhutan. So I was very surprised, and we had a privilege of meeting the Chief Justice of Bhutan, and quite a few people, all connected to to MCC. So we had an open chit chat. So at that time they were saying our country still believes community care, and we don't believe in institutionalized care. We are still a monarchy, and each community will take care of its own problems. So I asked, so let's say somebody is an orphan, so what will happen to them? They said the community will take care of them. Now that was surprising to me, and that also made me think a lot and ask a lot of questions to myself. So why did we lost that community touch, and then we have slowly become institutionalized care? Over a period of time, we have started institutions for elderly, for women, and for children, and so on and so forth. So So that made me ask a question. So when you go back to history, if you just see that originally we were all from the Stone Age. I think we all know, in society is divided into a few parts. One is we started as the Stone Age hunting and gathering society. We were all living in caves and all that. And then from there we moved to a group of people moved to a pastoral society. From there we moved as shepherds, domesticating animals. And then from there the society moved to an agrarian society. Then that is, you stay put in one particular place and literally, sowing seeds and, taking care of the farm. And then we moved from agrarian, we moved to the within quotes setup called urban or industrial society. And that is where the cities were formed, metropolitans were formed, and this is why we are here. Now, did we all move together? No, we never moved together. When society was formed, we were all, as I said, hunting and gathering. A few of them are even now are hunting and gathering society. I think we saw it in the video. You see some aboriginals or the tribal people. They said there is a tribal camp. So there is something called, a group of people called tribals, especially in our country. There are more than 420 tribes in our country. One of the very rich heritage, and I think most of us, probably if you see our roots of DNA, probably we may reach there. That's where we came from. Probably there are hundreds of tribals are already extinct also in our country. So these tribal hunting and gathering, they stayed there where they were in the forest and in their own habitats. And then from there, we moved on to pastoral. From pastoral, we moved on to agrarian. There is agriculture society. From agriculture society, some of us moved to industrial society. That is why some of us live in the city. So every time when people move from one stage to another stage of society, there was always a group of people who are left behind. And that's why you see even today, there are a lot of people who move from rural to urban. They think that is one of the, they think if somebody moves from rural to urban, they think that's the end of the societal growth. And I think there is, even after that, probably in our country, the thing is, like you move from your country to another country that is even more better. So we always look for the greener pastures and we start moving. So the society keeps moving. It's very mobile. So when people move from one place to another, or one part of the society to another part of the society, for example, I come from down south where my parents lived there, and when I moved, and now there is nobody in my native. So what happens is, I have forgotten my native, my cultural ways. Probably I can teach my children a little bit. And
your voice is breaking.
My voice is breaking?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it clear now?
Yes, sir. Clear.
Okay. So, from people move from society to society. From stage to stage. In the stage that I was talking to you about, what happens is every society creates its own need, because our societies are not self-sustainable, except probably I would say the pastoral society and the hunting and gathering society. They were nomadic. They moved from place to place depending on the resources that was available. So needs were created. When society moved from place to place, new needs started to arise also. I think that's where the crux that I want to bring it in. If you are from Tamil Nadu listening to this, and if you have studied Tamil and Tamil literature, and there is one word called Thinai. Okay, there is one word called Thinai. Kurinji, Mullai, Marudam, Palai. Irukkuda? Thinai, we all know there is a word called Thinai. So the Thinai talks about each one of us are specifically in a specific geographical location. We lived there. People who lived in the forest, people who lived in the semi-arid area, the desert, people who lived in the sea and occasionally came to the land, Neidal. So like that, there are different places that was mentioned in the literature that people lived, because we are all born in a particular geographical area, and we also have a human geography. That subject was there in the 60s and 50s in our own syllabus, in our own state, called human geography in the university education. This human geography talks about how each one of us, our color, our complexion, our nose ridges, our eyes, and everything is created according to the climatic condition that you are supposed to live in. But over a period of time, migration started heavy, and then it was much faster migrations, not gradual migration like in the past. So what happens? We started to acclimatize to different conditions faster. Probably that is also a creation of need. So what I want to arrive at is, so we have created need based on how each one of us are moved from our original habitat, and then we have started to liking something new, and that's how the needs were created. Now, where are these needs? How are these needs known to all of us? And that's what you see in the question. Can I be a part of the answer to the needs of the society? The society's needs are innumerable. I don't think I can even finish talking about listing out the needs in the next 20 minutes or 30 minutes. So the needs are huge. All of us know there are needs everywhere. So I will quickly put these needs into 4 categories. Okay. And then I will come to the part of being an answer and being a help to others. So in social work, I teach community development, how to work in a community, both in rural, urban, and tribal areas, and especially on tribal areas. So one of the things that I teach is there is a first need that we all know is the felt need. What does the people feel? They feel, you see them suffering, you see them that they feel miserable, they feel fear, they feel dejection, emotionally they express that. So that is the felt need. There is also an expressed need. There are certain people who will feel certain way, but when you go and ask them, they'll express it differently. We call it an expressed need. When you go there and ask what do you want, they may say different things than what they actually go through, because certain things cannot be expressed in because of our culture and our society. Especially, let's say you go to a place where a woman is facing domestic violence, and you interview them, and there will be people around them, in their own family members will be around them. If you ask them what is their need, probably their need is, I need help from domestic violence, but they will not be talking about it, but they'll be expressing some other needs. You get what I'm saying? So that is why I say felt need and expressed need. Then also there is a bigger
need and express need.
Yes. Okay.
So what is felt need and different need?
Can I take the questions a little later? But I am already explaining that felt need and expressed needs are different. Felt need is what you feel, and you tell whatever you feel. Expressed need is, you tell about your need, but not necessarily your felt need.
Oh, not
Okay.
expressing felt need.
Okay, because you cannot speak about certain things because of the culture. Okay, or certain other norms in your own family that will tell you, do not speak about all this thing to others. Okay. Then there is a third need called comparative need. The comparative need is, I remember visiting National University of Singapore, Department of Social Work, and we were asking about what are the problems in Singapore. So we thought Singapore is a very rosy place, beautiful place. Everything is in picture perfect. Everything is in order. So when you go there and ask, probably I thought they will talk about some urban issues, but they said we have poverty. So I was very surprised and asked the head of the department, how do you say Singapore has poverty? That means you have not visited India. There is nobody begging here. There is nobody in the streets asking for alms. Everything is looking perfect. Everything is only big buildings that I see. How do you say that you have poverty? He said, we have something called, relative poverty. The relative poverty is nothing but, when I compare myself to my neighbor, I'm poor. I think this is increasing in the urban areas and the metropolitans. When I compare to my neighbor, I am poor, or I'm considered as poor. So I want to raise up my expectations, that I need to be like somebody. Right? That is a comparative need. That need comes generally in urban area, but it's everywhere. Okay. And then there is, of course, there is another need. There is a normative need. that somebody else tells you, okay, this is the way you need to be, and then you think that is your need, and then you, for example, NGOs sometimes, or sometimes even government, they say, okay, this is the program, this is the policy that we have, so everybody gets it. So that becomes your need, and or you at least think or assume that that is your need. Now, we are not going to talk about all that, but I'm just going to tell you. So this is how needs are there. But, if you want to become the answer and or you want to be the help to the society's problem, I think it is very important. I would like to use the word calling. Now, or in simpler terms, I would use area of concern. Each one of us in the family that we are brought up, or the education that we have had so far, there will be something that is right within us that will be pricking, and that will be telling you this is something that that disturbs you, that you want to do something. Okay, and I would call that the area of concern. Definitely, no one who's listening to this or ever going to listen to this video even later can be the answer to every problem on this world, right? Can anyone be a answer to every problem on this world? No way. But I'm sure we can be an answer, or we can fix our part of the puzzle in the greater puzzle that is in the world. Okay, so imagine the problems in the world is like a big puzzle, but what you and I need to see is that understand is that you are part of that puzzle, and you want to put your place, you should be in the right place, so that the rest of the puzzle will be fixed. I think in that way, your area of concern, your place where you are needed, has to be identified. Okay, now I know there's then the next question that will come to you will be, how will I know that this is the area that I need to work on? Okay, that's where I said there is something called calling. Now, I will give you a few examples of, generally how we can work and be part of the help, or be part of the answer to the issue, personally as well as in general terms. And then probably I will sum it up with how we are sure that, how will we know that this is the calling that we have, and then we can be of help. I am not trying to tell you that all of you have to become social workers, all of you have to become doctors, and all of you have to become so and so. In service sector, there are quite a few sectors. One is education sector, which I am part of, that I've been teaching. But I have the privilege of working for people directly, because my subject is such that I need to practice it so that I can preach what I'm saying or teach what I'm saying, right? And otherwise, it's not going to be of any use. So I'm going to quickly tell you about this, some examples of work that we can be part of, and then how we can fulfill the calling. And in case if we have drive towards a particular area and you want to work towards it. Now, I think, I'll tell you some chronological order that I went through. I think one of the major areas was my own family, where my own sister-in-law, she still runs a home for the mentally retarded, destitute women. Now, before that, I never knew about social work. She was a student of social work from Madras School of Social Work, and she was inspired because she went to a home, and during the vacation like this in May, that a lot of people went back home, and few of the women were staying back, and then she found that they didn't have parents or nobody is there to take them back home during the vacation. So she found that there is quite a bit of women in Chennai who are on the streets, who don't have care because nobody wants them. They are mentally ill or mentally retarded, and they are destituted by their own parents or relatives or friends, and they are on the streets. So they need a shelter, they need home, they need protection. So she picked up this idea, and then she started the home, and now she houses around more than 250 women are housed. Now, I was a young chap at that time when she started, and I didn't have any idea about what social work is. I was quite inspired by what she was doing. Why should she do that? Somebody who is destitute in the streets, and she is picking them up and then cleaning them up, and then they are giving them food, shelter, clothing, medicines, and till they die, they live with her. And then she gives a lot of rehabilitation to them. And so that was my inspiration to become even a social worker. Now that was a big question to me. Why should somebody do that? And then she called me. This is something that pricked me, and this is my area of concern. And that's why I went and joined social work. And when I joined social work, I didn't have a clue of what I want to do and what I wanted to serve as. But one thing that right from childhood, I've heard so much about tribal people. So much about tribal people, and a lot of people who have worked on tribal people have stayed in my home, talked about stories about tribal people. And those stories used to excite me. Now, so when I finished my degree, my MSW, and that again, this was something. When I finished, when I was doing my social work, and that was something inspiring, and that is why even my thesis, my MSW thesis, I was driven towards that the tribal people. So I did my thesis there, and then I started to work for tribal people. And till date, in the last 20 years, probably most of my work is with tribal people, either on tribal rights or tribal health or tribal education. One of these areas is the key area that I work along with. Now, why how did it come? It came for me. It is very natural, and also the profession that I'm involved in augmented me to work furthermore for people, especially with the downtrodden. Why should I work for tribal people? What kind of work we should have? Do you know? A lot of tribal people don't even have legal entitlements, meaning they don't have Aadhaar card, ration card, or any other cards that you and I have to say that I'm a citizen of this country. Now, one of my objective is that in my generation, making sure that all these tribal people should have at least one identity that they can claim that they are part of our country, right? The number one. And then the second thing is, all our provisions, including the PDF, PDS, that is the public distribution system, that is the ration shop. You need an card for it, and you need a phone number to register. You need, even for vaccination, do you know that you need a card to vaccinate yourself for corona vaccine? But the government, the Tamil Nadu government, has given an SOP, giving relaxations to special provisions to certain kind of people, like tribal people who don't have any of this vaccination. Don't any of this legal entitlement. They can also get vaccinated. A lot of people don't know. So we are trying to work on with the government to try to make sure that they're also part of the society, and they also can be vaccinated. Now that is what is the help that we are talking about. So that's how I was inspired, and then I started to work. Now then came the earthquake in Gujarat. I don't know whether you remember. And then in 2002 or 3, and then the Gujarat riots. Post riot, we have sent our own students to help there on psychosocial rehabilitation with some of the organization. That also inspired me. So that is a disaster. It is not just giving provisions. I think there is something more. There is a psychosocial rehabilitation we can do. So only a professional can do. So social workers were sent. Tsunami. When the tsunami was hit, and then we were there in the field for more than 2 months, close to our department. We were there in this field for more than 2 months, staying in the seashore, nearby schools, and then we lived with the students there and helping communities after communities, giving awareness, spreading awareness about what tsunami is and why they should, what they should do, and how they can rebuild their lives. Those are things that we worked on. And there is so much of death, and people don't know how to handle death. I think that's the same situation that we are in right now. At that time, the situation is only along the coastal belt, and today we see everywhere. I think in my WhatsApp group, almost on an average 2 to 3 death news that I hear. Sometimes it is so alarming. Sometimes it's so fearful. It is so close to you. So how do you handle somebody who is facing death, or how do you console someone who is faced death in their own family or the loved ones? No, I think that is where we can pitch in. Even sometimes people, there are lots and lots of good Samaritans who is giving food to people who are affected by corona, people who are pitching in money to settle bills in the hospitals. I think those are also help, very important help. I think as community, I think that's the richness of the Indian community, right? Our culture. We need to take pride in our culture certain times, because these are culture that that gives a sense of togetherness as a society, that we are human and humane, that we can help each other in our own ways. Now, how do we help professionally? That is where is the question. Sometimes we can help randomly here and there, but how do we ensure that this help is the actual root, and this is what that stops the further problem? I think that is also something very important. So during tsunami, we were working with the government and we were working with the NGOs and trying to see how we can help them out, coming out of the fear and anxiety. And that brought out a lot of new problems for us also, about how women were suffering and how people who are dependent on fishing were also suffering. All those things were new things that we were able to find out. Then came, I don't know whether you remember, when you were in school, probably you would have heard about this Kumbakonam fire accident. I had a privilege, I would say, of meeting almost all the 93 families on a home visit. Literally visiting every home. I remember meeting the collector, then collector there, and getting permission and visiting with my student volunteers and team. We visited every home and spent 2 to 3 hours with them. Uh, we don't know who they were and they don't know who we were. And all what we could do was just go there and be with them to share their, grief. We never said any words. We just told them who we are and why we are there. And people started to share what was going through. And that was such a good ventilation that they were able to, vent it out. Some families lost one child, some families lost two. With some families, we went to the graveyard along with them. For some families, they were sharing, all the child's dress to, the small chapels to, they were showing one by one what all they bought for them and what they like. And, it's so painful. Some places we cried with them. In fact, at the end of the day, we were finding it more difficult to face the situation. It is so tough. So, there are different ways in which, I'm just glimpsing out not what we have done, but it is about how each one of us can be part of the solution in some way. For this, you don't need to speak big words, but all you need to do is be with them. Then came the floods in Chennai, 2015. I've skipped a few things, but the Chennai floods, the most affected, people plunged into action. Professionals, not professionals, anybody, they just plunged into action. But when we went to the rural areas, people lost their livelihood, lost their houses. So, in fact, we have taken up one particular village, a tribal village, and we started building houses for them. In our own ways, in our own indigenous methods, we were starting to build houses. And people started to pour in money because they wanted to make sure that, that project is successful. And these people are still living there, 113 families there in Tirukkalakundram, they live there still. Now, everything, you need to have this drive that I'm talking about, the area of concern. And then came Kerala floods. I'm sure that you know that you are aware 2-3 years ago, we had Kerala floods. So we went there. Again, for 2 weeks, we were there in Kerala floods, meeting people, talking to them, listening to their stories, and understanding what they are going through, and trying to give them psychological first aid. Now, we can talk on and on and on. Even last year, when the pandemic, the first part of it was there was a lot of concentration on livelihood. What happened to the migrants? We all know that migrants were there. And then we were supplying foods, we were roping in people who lost their livelihood in Tambram, especially the Tattukaras, the Talluvandi people, who lost their jobs. So we gathered all of them 4 or 5 talwandis of people, we just gathered them. We said, you supply food, we will supply them to the migrant workers who are stuck in different places. So we almost sent some 10,000 to 15,000 packets of food over a period of time. And we made sure that every train was supplied with food so that when they reached, till they reached their destination. Now, all these things didn't happen just like that. There's a group of volunteers, people with good-hearted men who are willing to brave through. Few of us were packing things, few of us are transporting things, few of us were, supplying it directly there. Now, all these things were possible just because you need to get connected to the right people and right kind of people and right group of people, and also the drive that we want to do something, right? That is what I call the area of concern. Now, for me, if I'm a social worker, I can't say one particular area, but for anybody, you can plunge into action to anyone in any place. For example, right now in my college, what we have done is we have started a quarantine center. We have a COVID task force in our college. We have a quarantine center here. We have people with mild cases, with widows, single parents who cannot have a place to quarantine themselves. Yeah. Okay. So we have quarantined them, and we have an ambulance services 24/7, shifting people from one hospital to another. We have one group of students who are working out on getting beds, where to get beds, with O2, calling up different hospitals and ensuring that people, when they come with requests, we are trying to surge in. Now, all these things, not all these things need professionalism, but definitely you need a professional team who will work along, and we all can, join together. Okay, we all can join in together. I think that is where, I call that area of concern. Now, if you are young and budding graduates, you are studying, so in different degrees, it doesn't matter where you are and what you're doing. One thing that I would say is, get into action, because you are needed. Your hand is needed. Your hand will make a difference. I told you, it is like a big puzzle. Each one of you can be the solution if you fill in your spot there. If you can fill in your spot there, put the puzzle there, and I'm sure, you can make a big difference. When I say about the calling for each one, the calling is the inner drive that each one of us have. When you hear a particular problem shared by certain people, or when you read it in a newspaper, or you hear it in a news, or you get this news through some source, but that particular problem, you will be brooding over it more, or you will start breeding that problem, not within you, but you will be talking about this problem to yourself again and again. How can I be quiet about this? Now, if you have an area of concern, probably that is your calling. We don't know. You have to try it out. Now, if you want to work in this level, definitely in whatever profession, whatever degree that you do, you can do. But if you want to be a professional and you want to know the technical know-how, how scientifically that you can approach this issue, I would very strongly urge you, in case we are doing an undergraduation, or even if you're doing a post-graduation. I have students who have finished engineering, after finishing engineering, they come and join. There are a number of students after engineering. Probably because of my network. I hope it is clear now. After graduating an engineering course, after graduating a master's course, after being a nurse and taught as a tutor or worked as a nurse, people have come and joined social work program. Why I'm saying that is, because if you want to become a professional in looking at the human problem or issues around you, I'm sure social work is a great place to be in. And I'm sure that, you will be not only an answer, but you will also be a help to the problem. But let me tell you, it is very easy to be of help to somebody. But I think you need to become the answer also. When I say that, let's say dowry is a problem. Okay, I'm just giving an example. Let's say dowry is a problem, is a social evil or whatever you can call it. Now, if you want to be an answer to the problem, then you know what you have to do, right? If you're a boy, you know how to handle that. If you're a girl, you know how to resist it. And then that's how I'm talking about. If alcoholism is your problem in your family, or it's elsewhere, how you need to take decisions in your life, and how you need to set an example. I think very important. So that's how you can be an answer to the problem in the society. And then, of course, you can be of help. I will tell one, saying by Nelson Mandela, which I love the most. After climbing a hill, you will only realize that there are many more, hills to climb. So there is no dearth of problems in this society. At any point of time, at anywhere, when you go, at any place, problems are always around. But it is up to us whether you want to climb that other hill, or you want to climb one hill and you stop there, or you want to be a professional climber to making sure that every hill is climbed, so that till you die, and making sure that this world is a better place, like what Michael Jackson sang so many years ago. Making it a better place is in our hand, right? And I think that's a challenge that we have, especially during the time that we are going through. So social work definitely is one of the best option. There are several colleges which is offering. Patrician College is offering a social work program. If you want more details, probably you can go online and see. If you have any questions, probably in another 5 or 10 minutes, I can take these questions. Probably I want one of the student volunteer to monitor the questions. Instead of asking, probably you can post the questions as well in the chat box. I think that's easier for us to answer questions if there is any questions. Thank you.
I give a really heartfelt thanks to our chief guest who spent his busiest time gracing the occasion. So today we had the opportunity to hear your thoughts, and this is definitely encouraging us in our future events. So your thoughts have enlightened our minds and shown us a new path. Once again, thank you, sir. So now, students, you are requested to ask your questions or post your questions in the chat box.
Sir?
So, social work profession, impact of COVID, I think I can't say it impacted positively and not negatively also. I think it's an opportunity for social workers to um, raise their standards. Um, you know, uh, every profession has its own risk. And if we call this as a profession, I think the professional risk is always there. We cannot sit at home. I don't think we can sit at home and say there is COVID, so I will not go into the field. If doctors claim that they are professionals, whether they like it or not, they are in the field. There is no two ways about it. Of course, I'm saying we have to use our wisdom to see how we can, need to be protected. Very important, but at the same time, the people are suffering. People are in the field there is a gap between uh, the actual need and the actual resource. So I think social work professionals are very much needed in the field right now than ever before. I think it is time that we hit the field as social workers. Uh, I know there is a lot of risk, but if we call it our profession, we can't sit at home and say, there's a lot of threat. Let's say if the doctors and nurses are going to say that there is threat, I think we are going to terribly be, failing to be alive today, right? Doctors have risked themselves. Yeah, I think we need to take a lot of risk. I think that is what the COVID is teaching us. Good, Disha. That's a very good question. Alternative currencies, time banking, and future in India. It'll be good for the urban society, but again, it'll be like leaving behind a good number of people behind. Probably I would say they're left behind. They're already left behind. Though we are calling digital India at one point of time, or several people are claiming that we are digital India. But let me tell you, there are people who don't have more than, just see the number of mobile phones and mobile numbers available in our country and the total population, and at least the adult population. It will not match. You know why people don't have even cell phone numbers? I go and work with tribal people and they don't have cell phone numbers. And where do you get the PDS and, OTP and all kinds of things? I think it's going to push people even more behind. That's what my think. My current take is about this digital platforms, or alternative currencies. Alternative currencies is great for us, and you and me probably will enjoy that, but not for mm, people who are the poorest of the poor. And it is going to leave people behind, and it's going to widen the gap, not fill the gap.
So Reena R have asked a question.
Yeah.
Being like self or expensive, which is the right one?
Now you are asking me a tough question. Being like self is very important, I think, especially on your identity. And making your own opinions is fine, but you should know the Tamil saying "idam porul eval." You should know the right place, right time, and the way you express is very, very important. I think if you know that, definitely you can express what you want to express. But at the same time, you should know all these three things: the time, place, and the way you express is very, very important. A lot of young people who come and talk about rights, very important. You guys have energy, you have that vigor in you, you have the grit in you, but the way you express matters a lot, and whom you express to also. I think you should be very well versed with that. If you put the same message across to an elderly person with a totally a different generation, and you are going to present it to the Z generation, like your own generation, I think the way you express is going to be different. Probably you put it with Z generation with hashtags, okay, but there you may have to explain the story or something else.
Sir,
Sorry.
I typed the question in a chat box. Can you tell the answer, sir?
Yeah. Yes. Josephine.
Yes.
Josephine has given a question. Sir, did you
Yes, sir.
face any disappointments in social work? Okay, disappointments. Yeah. Disappointments are always there. When you work with people, you will face disappointments. I think you need to be prepared for it. I tell you, off late, what is my disappointment? I told you that I work with tribal people, and some of the children we've been working from their from class 6th. They successfully finished a 12th standard, and then we put them in city colleges in Loyola, MCC, few places we have put them, and after investing so much, after year one, during the summer vacation when they went back home, um, they got married and they settled there. And then, it really pains us sometimes I used to think whether it is their felt need or our expressed need. I don't know. But it doesn't stop us from educating anybody or making sure that anybody moves from. It's called an upward mobility, I call it, or sociologically, it's called upward mobility. Like your parents are totally unaware of education, but you are a child. They have made them educate to come to a certain level. So their child will make their child, educate even more better. So we wanted to do that, but it is very difficult when you see a child growing up with you for 8 years. You see they are one of the smartest one, and then you put them in college. You have got sponsorship for them. You get them into a good college, and then they drop out and get married. I tell you, it sometimes it questions all your ability. Why did you work? But the satisfaction is at least they know the world now. They know how to read. They know what to do, and they know um, they are generally aware, and they are empowered to speak up for what they need to speak. That's where we satisfy ourselves and keep. But we still strive that at least one few generations from that tribal group has to come up. So probably if you say that is what that comes into my mind right now, and I say disappointment. Fill
Okay.
this feedback form up.
Vishalakshi has asked a question. In your experience, what kind of clients are the most difficult to work with?
Most difficult to work with. Probably I'm getting older, so I see a totally different sets of student group now than what I saw in 2000. When I joined as a faculty, 2000 to 2005 is one group, it's totally different. 2005 to 2010 is another group. Till 2015 also, I think. But after that, I see a totally a different group of students. Probably, I would say students. They challenge us very much. In fact, their needs are different. So probably I need to keep updated about both technology as well as what is happening around. I think that's why I said I started by saying probably I'm getting older. Okay, but definitely you guys are the most challenging ones to work with. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
What
What is the main aspect lacking in our country to become a developed country?
It's a big question. Probably, I think I don't have a particular answer. Main aspect lacking in our country. I think I'm not an expert to say what is lacking, but at least for the downtrodden, I can say. I think we need to the approach should be bottom up approach, not top down approach. I think our policies has to evolve from bottom, from the people. I think in a lot of ways, I would say Kerala has achieved that, like Kudumbashri and few other things that they do. The problem is discussed at the people level, okay, in the village level, in the hamlet level, right? I think that is what is the empowerment, real empowerment. I think and then it becomes a policy. Then issues are real, the solutions are also real. Otherwise, it's going to be a top-down approach a lot of times, and it's like I think definitely I'm not against corporates. Yeah, corporates are important; they are also part of the society, but corporates can't govern our country. How
Sir?
do you? Yes, sir.
What is your advice for 12 students who are about to complete the school education, sir?
What is my advice? What I told you is, when you finish your 12th standard, you are still not very steady. There are different people. Like today, I spoke. If you listen to it, probably you will think, "Oh, social work is the best profession." When somebody else speaks about something else, you will change. So, if you are very sure what you want to do, go ahead and do it. Pursue your heart. If you're not very sure, take a generic course. For example, I was not very sure when I was in 12th standard. I was very wary. I was thinking on different things. Basically, I want to become a caterer. I love cooking, so I wanted to become a caterer. So my father said, "No way, you can't. I can't call my son a cook." That's what he thought. For him, he's a doctor, so he thought he didn't want his son to be a chef. So I said, okay, let me do something generic. So I picked up BA English Literature. I had time for 3 years to decide what I want to do. I was a little more matured. So I decided on what I wanted to do. I did social work, and I think I'm blessed. I don't have any regrets of taking up social work because that's my heart and that's my passion, and I'm doing what I want to do. Yeah. Um,
Yes,
Somebody has said
uh,
balance your, yeah.
yeah. How do you balance your work and your personal life, sir?
I'm not a good example, to be very honest. um, Only my family should be able to comment on how I balance, but it is very difficult. See, that's why I said, when you try to be an answer to the problem, to the problems in the society, uh, there is 24 hours is not enough. But then when you ask a questions, why do you live? And then somebody say, hey, you're here for your family, that's why you work. Then then the question goes on, like, the chicken came from the egg, and the egg came from the chicken, whatever. um, so it goes on. But I think it's very tough, um, uh, sometimes very tough to say a cutoff time when you start working for people. Very, very tough. um, uh, your family needs you. Your family is your first place that you need to work for. Okay, because you are given a responsibility, moral responsibility, and that's why you're married. Otherwise, you need to become a bachelor or a spinster to work full time like that. But otherwise, if anyone is married, I think your first priority is your own family, your wife, your children. You need to spend enough time, and that's why you are given. God has put them in that ambit, right? So your priority is them. Of course, there are times that you need to sacrifice their time and then you work for them. But it cannot be always, definitely. As I told you, it's tough.
Okay, sir. Reena R has asked,
Yeah.
even though we are in a democratic country, we are refused sometimes some of our rights. How to overcome at that times?
Yeah. How to overcome, you know, not all rights can be ascertained, right? Even in our own homes, leave the country for a moment. Even at our own home, uh, suppose you're 21, you can't say I'm a major and I know what to do, and you can't say, right? Why? Because we are under certain kind of submission of our parents. So we believe that is there. But so what I'm trying to say is, some of the rights, what you think that is my right, because you want to submit to your parents, and I think that's right to a certain extent, till you get married at least. Once you are married, then you have become a different unit. But when you see it here, we are in a democratic country, but there are, for example, now the case that is going on between WhatsApp and the central government, on privacy issues. It's really an alarming issue. I don't know whether you know it. Okay, it's really an alarming issue that we cannot keep quiet. You have to wait and watch, or we need to take sides and say, hey, this is what I stand for. Farming, The farmers are still there on the borders of Delhi. They're still protesting. Okay, why do you want to? You need to take. We can't be in the cat on the wall. We need to take time, but we need to be extremely be patient. Not everything can be protested. Please remember that. Not everything can be protested. Lakshadweep, another rights issue. It was a peaceful island. Now you know what is happening. Yeah, so we need to be very, very careful when we say rights. I think the first thing that we can do is that we have to do our own duties first, and then we can start about our rights. But even then, sometimes rights are denied in our place. It is possible with the present scenario and the environment that we live in. Our rights, even probably you may be tutored what you need to eat and whom you need to relate with. If WhatsApp thing goes up, I'm sure you will also be monitored whom you need to relate with and what message that you need to post it in WhatsApp also. So yeah, we are in a tough times. I don't have any answer specifically, but let me tell you, protest is not the answer for all our rights being denied. You can't protest for everything. Impossible.
Thank you, sir. So Mukim have asked, respected sir, can you please share your thoughts on safeguarding the tribal identity?
Tribal identity. The only
Yes.
thing that you can do that is, probably you may have to read something called Nehru's Panchashil. Okay, Nehru's tribal Panchashil. Okay, I will probably type it. Please go online and check this. He has pointed out 5 points in the early, just when we got independent. I think that still applies now. He says, leave them as they are. Don't overgovern them. Don't make them an exhibition product. All kinds of things. He says, 5 points, he has talked so beautifully about how to guard this tribal entity. I think very, very important. I think the problem is we are over governing them, and I think that is where we are interfering too much into their affairs, and I think a lot of things, a lot of policies. I'll tell you if one example. I don't want to name the place. There is one place where the tribals eat, the red rice. You know what's the red rice? The big ones. In Kerala, you'll see it very often. And the hostel, it's a government hostel, and all our tribal children, they all like red rice. So the red rice is much cheaper, but the government is saying you need to give only poni rice. We are trying to tell, and I say we, the organization and the representatives and the school teachers are trying to say, now the tribal children are used to eating red rice. So let's give them, that's what they like. They don't like this polished white rice, what we eat in the city. The policymakers are not, they were not willing in the beginning to even accept that, And that's what I'm trying to tell you. It's so difficult for them to accept. How can you not give white rice? That is where the identity of the tribal. For example, in PDS, in public distribution system in ration shop, in the tribal area, probably they should give millets, because that's what is a staple diet, not rice. And those are things. I think that's how we need to be very sensitive to their needs, and you need to respect people who work for the tribal people, and when they represent, I think it's very important to listen. It's not some administrator comes and makes one policy and gives them, and they go away. That's how we can safeguard the tribal entity. Please read this Nehruvian tribal Panchashil. Very interesting. The 5 points.
Thank you, sir. So Reena has asked, sir, do you have any idea that we have missed to follow during this pandemic that causes to extend this pandemic? Is this our mistake or by the government?
think it's fairly squarely I would blame the people, the society. I think we need to concentrate more on breaking the chain. I think that's the only solution. Okay, that is one, or not only solution, one of the solution. The government preparedness, unpreparedness is the second part of it. Okay, I think breaking the chain. Who's the government? I think we are also part of the government. So we also have a moral responsibility. I think as people, I think it's also because a lot of myths are still being believed in our place, right? That is still being believed. Oh, vaccination is bad. Okay, probably that is your take. No problem. Take it. Keep it. Or they'll say, this is all mythical. It all came from China. It's all created. It is created. Maybe it may be created. It is all alterated virus. But the issue is real. After the second wave, if people don't believe this virus is not real, I think I don't know what to say. Yeah, we have lost so many of our loved ones, right? Even then, if we don't want to quarantine ourselves, we don't want to be taking care of ourselves, we don't want to, we still see this as a stigma. You have corona, but you still walk around to every shop. I think these are all still happening. I think that's a major hit in our country. Also, it shows our health infrastructure. At least in South, we have much better infrastructure. When I see it from some of the states in the North, uh, cases reported, and I think we are much better off. In a lot of ways, we have coped much better. Um, I think especially the last 2-3 days, the news that I'm getting is, we are taking control over the situation, but not otherwise. We don't know. So I think it is not all other countries. They are able to manage their own country at least to a large extent. But I think one of the major thing that I would say is, I think as people, I think we need to become responsible. We need to be aware of each other and their needs and respect that space and identity. For 15 days, if all of us can, do what we can do, I'm sure we can make a big difference.
Thank you, sir. Deepankar has asked, what are the opportunities or challenges today in tribal development? And as a social worker, how should we approach in work?
Okay. The biggest challenge probably for tribal is their identity being questioned. And because of their identity, sometimes they're disregarded right from level one, even from they studying in a school, or they getting the basic amenities like water, safe drinking water, to electricity, to even a shelter. I think it's a major challenge in working with tribal people. I think we need to create its identity. I think the identity should not be created out of sympathy. I think identity should be created with empathy. We cannot look down upon the tribal people. Tribal people are probably much more cultured than most of us, much more sensitive towards environment than most of us. What is happening right now is, I think we are in every side, we are grabbing tribal land, and either individuals, they build kingdoms with the tribal land, or we have projects and we evacuate tribal people from their own land that they lived for centuries. I think that's the biggest challenge we have. The bigger challenge is sometimes we make policies without even thinking too much about it. The people who preserve the forest were asked to evacuate the forest. How is it possible? Any other question?
Thank you. Yes, sir. Sir,
Sir?
in your
I didn't hear.
Yes, sir. Sir, in your options as a professional social worker, how should we empower tribal people to live life as a normal people?
First of all, we should ask whether they want to live as normal people. Who is normal people? Are they abnormal people? You know, uh, sometimes we have mindset that we are normal and they are abnormal, or we are developed and they are underdeveloped. Probably, in my view, they are much more developed than most of us, um, in their own right. In fact, we need to pick a lot of things from them on sharing and quite a few things. So, uh, my question to Adarsh is whether we need to ask them whether they want to follow our path, the within codes development. If they yes, they can follow. You can empower them by telling them learn, come to school, study, do this. In case if they want to be where they want to be, yeah, they should be given an option to what they want to be, and that's where we need to, um, I would say, as real empowerment. You know,
Sir, sir,
yeah.
do you have any importance for COVID-19 pandemic or any difficult situations?
No, I didn't get your question.
So for COVID-19, for a pandemic, what are all the difficult challenges?
Um, if I have to specifically mention that for COVID-19, uh, probably my heart goes out for all children, and I'm hearing news that are quite a few children are orphaned because are orphaned or they become with single parents. Um, I think we need to have a heart for them, and I think we need to support these families, especially a lot of families, breadwinners have died. Young people, 31 years. Yesterday, 2 days before, one of my student who studied under me, he's 31 years, he passed away. Very difficult to see the 2-year-old. So it's tough. So I think the children who are left behind and the single parents who are left behind, widows and widowers, I think we need to give a helping hand. We need to think especially about them and see how we can pitch in and help them. Especially as colleges, wherever you are, probably you can request your management to get a database on how each student is faring and what happened to their family. Is there any sibling or their own parents who's deceased because of COVID, and how the college can be a part of help. I
Okay,
think that's what the initiative that you can take as a student. Okay,
okay, okay. Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's the end of questions. Hopefully, Josephine, Anita, probably you can take over.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. So over to Esther.
I thank you, sir, once again for patiently answering all the queries. And thank you, Josephine, for moderating the session. Now I call upon Mr. Renu Raj of First MSW to give away the vote of thanks.
It gives me immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks in this webinar. First, I thank God Almighty for His blessings. I thank our Chief Guest, Dr. Prince Solomon, who honored this webinar with his inspirational thoughts. I would like to thank our college management, Director and Secretary Dr. R. Raj, Academic Director Dr. Fatima Wasant, Principal Dr. Usha George, and our Vice Principals for their support. I thank our HOD Mrs. Divya and faculty members for their guidance. I thank the participants for making this event a grand success. I would like to thank my friends for their coordination and contribution for this program. Once again, I thank one and all present here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Renu Raj. Thank you all for your valuable time. I request the participants to give your feedback through the link sent in the chat box. Post submitting your feedback, you will receive your certificate. Thank you all. Have a nice day.
Thank you, sir.
I once again repeat, I request the participants to give your feedback through the link sent in the chat box. Post submitting your feedback, you will receive your certificate. Thank you.